Before we begin this week's video, I've got coffee donations. There's quite a few of them because I took that month break, but regardless, let's go ahead and read them off. Thank you so much to Kipper, 6Naughty6Thoughty6, Dan Davis, Chiron, and Kevka Bluebird for the one-time donations. And thank you so much to Danderwool for the doggy treat tier. If you'd like to help support what I do, my coffee link is in the bio of every one of my videos. Thanks in advance, and let's dive on in. Heyo everyone, Misha B. Barkin here. I'm sure that most of you have at least heard of Starbucks. I think it's worldwide. Does Starbucks exist outside of the US? In case you don't know though, Starbucks is a very popular coffee chain in the US and probably at least Canada too, and are everywhere. You can't go through a big city without seeing at least one. Recently, Starbucks locations have been pushing towards unionizing, and this has not pleased the coffee overlords. Through misinformation, anti-union campaigns, intimidation, and even terminations, Starbucks has been doing its best to fight its employees trying to unionize because God forbid a company treat its employees like people. This leads us to the topic of today's video, and why a cartoon dog is talking about a coffee chain. This right here is Apollo, a furry who has recently gained a lot of attention through showing up to a union rally in his fursuit after being fired by Starbucks and has gained much reputation since then. They've been featured on a lot of podcasts, different news articles, and even today's video. We'll hear from them later. We'll discuss more about Apollo and have him answer some questions later on, but for now, let's discuss Starbucks and unions. While Starbucks employees have been attempting to unionize since around the 1980s, it's only been fairly recently that they have seen any success, with the very first store voting yes to unionize in December of 2021. This has caused many other locations to shoot for the same goal, to form a union within their own stores. Since December, 17 other locations have voted to unionize, with only one store voting no so far. In early April, the biggest store to unionize became a flagship location in Manhattan, with the store having a little over 100 more employees than the average Starbucks. The Starbucks locations and employees voting yes are hoping to see improvements in employee treatment, higher pay, and better conditions by voting to unionize. They're also hoping to be able to sit down with higher-ups and discuss plans so the employees the stores call partners truly feel that way. While the number of stores that have voted to unionize may be small so far, every movement has to start somewhere. Now, of course, Starbucks isn't taking this lying down. The employees unionizing would mean more cost for the company, and, well, we can't have that, now can we? Employees who have been associated with the union have had their hours severely cut, or have been fired for various petty reasons as an excuse to get rid of a potential threat. Starbucks has even faced legal penalizations due to fighting union efforts, as the NLRB, or the National Labor Relations Board, has been on Starbucks for illegally suspending an employee and denying another schedule change due to them being associated with the union. 7 employees from a Memphis store were let go after going on TV for an interview to discuss organizing at their store, though Starbucks claimed that all their employees were let go for various non-union reasons. Just a coincidence, I'm sure. Now, of course, Starbucks denies any interference, calling it categorically false, but like, come on. It's pretty obvious what they're doing. So who is this Apollo, and why are they involved? Apollo was an employee at a Starbucks location located in Kansas before being let go for, and I quote, displaying violent and threatening behavior. Though as stated before, we almost certainly know the real reason. I mean, him being fired just a week after being involved in staging a walkout to protest unsafe working environments is just a coincidence, you know? I'm sure it's not related. One of my favorite parts of this is they tried to claim Apollo was violent when he listed trouble standing up for myself as a weakness. Like, come on, you gotta make the reason believable, you know? Anyway, after this, Apollo was in Seattle, which is very much not in Kansas anymore, and spoke at a union rally in his fursuit, which is where the following video is from. Play the video. Pull the lever, Checnk.
Hello, my name is Michael Vestigo. Right now, you can call me Apollo. I was hired on to Starbucks on November 2nd, 2020, and I had been with the company for about a year and a half. Then, on April 1st, like a bad April Fool's Day joke, I was fired from the company for being supposedly violent and threatening. Tell me, does this violent and threatening? Does this count? Absolutely not. I made the mistake during the PDC. When they asked me what some of my weaknesses were, I told them that I have a difficult time standing up for myself. So they targeted me. I believe they targeted me for this termination. They turned around and called me violent and threatening, but kept me in the store for 3 weeks? I don't think so. You don't keep someone who's violent and threatening on the floor for 3 weeks. It doesn't make any sense. Yep. And the message I come bearing today is one of power. I want to let everybody know, all the small people out there, for Starbucks, for other workers, for other jobs, corporations, whatever, it does not matter how big or how small you are. As evidenced by the Roastery and Amazon, you can organize a large number of people to unionize against these corporations. I come from a store that is maybe had 16 people. We had 16 baristas, and we organized. And we went on strike after another coworker was accused of stealing $20,000 over the course of 8 months. So we organized and we went on strike. And even though we may be small, that day we filled up that parking lot with members of the community, with other labor unions, with support from the community. So that is my message for everybody. Don't be afraid to unionize. You have the support. You have the power.
While I was in Seattle doing all of this work, I started to gain confidence because I was just so sure of what I was doing and so proud of what we were doing, Apollo said. He'd worn the suit at a strike, but this was a much bigger event by far. I've spoken about it before, but for those of you who haven't worn a suit, it quite literally changes you. You become much more confident, and this starts to translate to your everyday life as well. So I imagine this is what Apollo was feeling when wearing his suit to these rallies. He probably felt for the most part unstoppable. Before anyone claims he was intruding by wearing the suit and speaking, he checked beforehand to make sure speaking at the event was okay, and they gave him the green light. Apollo is currently trying to get his job back at Starbucks, as he says he's genuinely enjoyed his job. Ultimately, that's what I want to do. I really loved working for Starbucks. My team was a second family. They're all amazing people, and I just loved working there, he says. On top of that, Apollo streams on Twitch, which I'll link in the description below. Including today's video, Apollo has also been appearing on a lot of podcast and news sites, so to say he's been busy would be a huge understatement. Now, I was lucky enough to get an interview with Apollo. I made a post on Twitter and asked if he wanted to answer some questions for this video, and he replied.
Holy shit, it actually worked.
So without further ado, let's ask Apollo some questions. What inspired you to wear Apollo to the rally instead of just going in plain clothes?
So this had been a long time coming, sort of thing. Well, sort of. I actually only got Apollo back in February, so I mean, I wasn't really planning on doing this sort of thing with him, but then my store in Overland Park held a strike in March, and I was talking with my coworkers who know that I'm a furry, and they're really awesome people, so of course they were okay with it. And I was like, yo, I just got this fursuit, and they know how excited I've been to receive it and everything. It's been almost a year since I had it commissioned. I was like, should I wear this to the strike? Because, me showing up in a fursuit would draw a lot of attention, and our store is pretty small, and so I was hoping to get some people to turn their heads and be like, what the hell is going on over there, and really figure out what it was actually going on, which was a strike, obviously. And so I did that, and it worked pretty well, I'd say. I've had multiple people tell me that they actually wouldn't have even known about the strike if my picture in some of the articles hadn't caught their eye. So I was like, okay, that's really cool. I'm glad it had the desired effect that I wanted. After I got fired, I was invited out to Seattle, and I was going with one of my other fired coworkers. Her name is Lydia. Originally, I was like, I'm definitely gonna do this. If I wore it at the strike, it makes sense to follow it up by wearing it to this rally, right? Because it's such an oddity. And, me and Lydia were joking about it. I was like, well, if Apollo is at the strike here in Overland Park, imagine the look on the managers' faces when they see me at this rally in Starbucks' hometown of Seattle, right? But then I was like, I don't know, I just got this fursuit, and obviously I've never traveled with it before, and I had a lot of reservations about bringing Apollo onto a plane and everything like that. And Lydia was very, very gung-ho, no, you have to do this. Don't let this opportunity slide. I think it would be really, really awesome. Just really think about it. And I had talked with my roommate who echoed basically the same sentiment. And so I really mulled it over, and I decided to, just kind of say f*** it, right? I was going to keep the head with me at all times during the flight process, which was a hassle. But I was not going to let it out of my sight. So I brought it with me on the plane, and then I brought my fursuit sleeves and gloves, and those just fit in my suitcase no problem. And, we flew out to Seattle. And then, we were doing our thing in Seattle. We had one day where we were just tabling around the city, and I didn't, wear Apollo to any of that or anything. My plan was to just wear Apollo to the rally. Leading up to it, I was really just kind of like thinking it over again, and I put together like a few more reasons why it would be good to bring Apollo to the rally, which kind of like solidified any, or like erased any doubts I had in my mind. And I've spoken about these before. I made a TikTok about it, but aside from the fact that being the only furry at a rally or a strike, that it garners attention, aside from that, I found that wearing him gives me an amount of confidence that I never thought that I'd have in my entire life. I'm usually, pretty timid, kind of like stay in the back, not really make a scene. Definitely like not a center of attention kind of person. But wearing Apollo, wearing a fursuit is like, you kind of are the center of attention, right? Especially if you're doing it in a place outside of like conventions and stuff like that. Any non-furry setting. It forces you to kind of like get over that, and it just gave me so much confidence. I had never done any sort of public speaking before, but in the moments leading up to that speech where I would normally feel so nervous, like butterflies in my stomach, my voice would, wobble, and I would stutter and stuff like that. None of that was present that day. And I walked up to that microphone with not a doubt in my mind, and I gave that speech, and for it being my first public speaking experience, I thought I did a really f***ing good job. Okay, so that was the whole confidence bit, but also I realized that in a movement like this, like the labor movement with working class being so huge and made up of like so many just regular people just trying to get by, obviously we are all going to be very different people. And I was like, I think it's a really good thing for a movement like this to really embrace that and acknowledge that we're very different people, because if we can do that, we can really acknowledge just how many people, these greedy corporations are affecting. So it covers just like a really broad spectrum of people. I just think it's really important to, kind of stand up and say, we are very different, but despite our differences, we are all here today, fighting for the same things, right? And I think that's just a really good message to send. If I had had any doubts or whatever, or if the union leaders and representatives themselves had any reservations about me wearing Apollo, and they had told me, I absolutely would have complied like no problem. I would have been like, okay, I won't do it. It's not a big deal. And when we all met for the first time, I was like, just to let you know, like I did bring a costume to wear at this rally. I did it at my strike outside of my own work in Kansas, and I guess I didn't specifically say that it was a fursuit. I just said costume, but they were like, yeah, that sounds cool. And that was basically it. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna do it. So kind of a lengthy answer for the first question. I'm sorry about that, but I think that's it.
How receptive were others at the rally towards you wearing Apollo?
It's kind of a difficult question to answer, because I didn't experience any sort of like hatred or backlash like in the moment, like at the rally. So for the people that were at the rally, I can't quite say whether or not they were totally in support of me wearing it, but the people who were okay with it, they let me know. They were like, this is really cool, and when the rally was done and everything, I had a few furries from the Seattle area come up, and they were like, thank you for doing this. Like, this is really, really cool, and I just really appreciate it so much. But yeah, other than getting looks from people, which is kind of half the reason, I don't really say that there was any bad reception, and if there was, they weren't vocal about it.
Some people both in and outside of the community have been critical of you, stating that wearing the fursuit takes away from the seriousness of the rally, or that it makes it seem like a joke. What's your opinion on this line of thought?
Immediately, I'm like, I just think it's ridiculous, because it's really not that deep, and I have seen these comments and stuff being like, dude, like, why would you do this? It's really unserious and everything like that. But I mean, I feel more like it would have made it less serious and more like a joke if I had acted like it was a joke. I mean, I did say the one line where it's like, does this look violent and threatening? And I held out my arms and, you know, I'm in a fursuit. I said that more to kind of get the crowd, you know, on my side a little bit. You know, it brings a little bit of, I would say, comic relief rather than like taking away from the seriousness of the rally, because it ties into everything that had happened to me. Being accused of being violent and threatening is very, very outside of my character. And I mean, you know, just looking at me as like an outside person, you don't know what I'm like. And just saying that is not really going to evoke the same emotion as if I'm standing up there in a fursuit head and fluffy arms and paws saying, I'm not violent and threatening. I quite literally look like this. Like, I did make that joke, but it was in context of the seriousness of my situation, making light of my own situation. That's why I'm like, it doesn't really take away from the seriousness of it. And people say that I'm like discrediting like the union movement and like the rally by doing that, which is also just ridiculous, because if an entire union movement is threatened by a dude in a wolf costume, we are in some serious trouble. If one dude alone wearing a fursuit can make or break a union rally, then it wasn't a very strong movement to begin with. Like I said before, the working class is so huge, and this labor movement in general, like Starbucks and not Starbucks, has been gaining so much momentum so rapidly. One dude in a fursuit is not gonna make the entire thing crumble. It's just a ridiculous line of thought. The people have put in so much work and effort to this movement and everything, and even the people that were organizing everything, didn't tell me that I was discrediting anything. And you know, this is what they do for a living. They organize unions and they do these rallies and everything, and that's their job. That's their livelihood. So, I mean, if I was threatening their job by doing this, they absolutely would have told me. So, no, I was not discrediting the union strike, or the rally, the movement, anything. I didn't take away from the seriousness of the rally. And, you know, if you really think that, I don't know how else to change your mind, because I have my reasons. I had the support, and, you know, I did a really good job. And obviously it turned some heads, and it got people talking about the movement.
Is there anything you would have done different?
There's not much I don't think I would have done different. I did see a comment somewhere where it was like, you have magnetic eyelids. I would have worn them to make you look angry. And, you know, I could see where they were coming from with that. And I actually had the eyelids with me, and I just decided not to put them on. I don't remember why, but, you know, looking back, I'm like, well, you know, if I had looked angry in the fursuit, then my does this look violent and threatening thing, I don't think it would have landed as well. And no, I don't think there was anything that I would have done different. It was all very like in the moment, and I think that sort of candidness really captures like your emotion, and the like portrays like what you're feeling most accurately. So no, I don't think there's much I would have done differently. I'm very satisfied with how everything turned out, honestly.
Any last things you'd like to add?
I guess what I do want to say is that a lot of people have been hailing me like as some sort of hero, you know, this and that, and I just want to say I'm not a hero. I didn't organize the rally. I wasn't even the one that contacted Starbucks Workers United at my own store. The credit for that goes to someone named Hannah. All I did really was show up in a fursuit. I was literally just like everybody else there. The only difference is the way I looked. So no, I don't really think I'm some sort of hero, and while I appreciate the sentiment, obviously, I just want to remind people of that. I am not better than anybody else. I'm the same. That's the most important thing that I'd really want to add. Otherwise, I'd probably say, support your local unions, support any local stores that are trying to unionize. If you can, donate to strike funds and stuff like that. And I think that's pretty much it.
So we're to the end of the video. Today's video was a bit of a different one, but I had fun making it nonetheless. I never thought as a furry channel I'd be talking about a major coffee corporation firing a furry for attempting to unionize, but life comes at you fast, I guess. I hope you enjoyed, and if you did, feel free to drop a sub. We just hit 10K, and I'm excited to show you all the video ideas I've accumulated over the break. Once again, my coffee's in the description if you'd like to help pitch in. YouTube doesn't pay as much as people think it does, and a lot of work goes into these videos, so anything you can spare helps. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!